Hi everybody, Dr. Doug Williams here from Care Chiropractic for this week's video blog. What we're going to talk about today is the use of ice versus heat. It's springtime here in Indiana and people love to get out in their yards. We've been seeing a lot of folks come in this last week or two with some back and neck sprains and strains secondary to putting down mulch or shoveling stone or planting flowers on that. And inevitably when we're working on them, they ask, Doc, should I use ice pack or heat pack? What's better for me? Usually if you have a new injury or an aggravation of an old injury, ice is your best bet to try in the beginning. The way you use ice is you can take anything out of the freezer, put a thin towel between your skin and whatever that is. The gel packs are fine, or you could use a bag of frozen peas if you wanted to. Put it over the area on top of that thin towel. Leave it on there for 15 minutes. If it feels progressively numb and then better, you could continue on for another 15 minutes for, say, a total of 30 minutes on that. If you were using it and by 15 minutes, if it wasn't feeling numb or if it was starting to feel aggravated or worse, then you don't want to use the ice. Let's say that you put it on there and it started to feel better after 15 minutes. It started to numb out and feel a little bit better. Leave it on there for up to 30 minutes and then go ahead and take it off for at least 30 minutes up to an hour on there. So you want to let the tissue get cold and then you want to let it kind of heat back up to body temperature on that. You could repeat that process several times over the next couple of hours. So say 30 minutes on, 30 to 60 minutes off, 30 minutes on, 30 to 60 minutes on. And then after you've done that maybe 3 times, go ahead and leave the ice off for a couple of hours and then repeat that on there again later in the day if it was in the morning. Usually you can't ice too much if it's giving you relief, as long as you're giving it the breaks in between several sessions and then a longer break, say between 3 or 4 sessions at a time on there. If you feel like you've left the ice on too long and the tissue starts to feel very uncomfortable, or for some reason you thought you had a burn, which can happen, that's why you usually want to use a towel, you can always apply a moist heat on top of that, like a hot wet towel or a hot water bottle. That can oftentimes reverse those effects. So usually you won't have that happen if you just make sure that you follow the 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off process, and then give it an hour or two in between different parts of the day on there. Heat's a different story. Oftentimes heat's most useful when people have had kind of chronic low-grade issues on there. If you have a bad back and it's sore and it's you wake up that day and the weather is more, the barometric pressure has changed and you feel more achy, that's usually when heat will come in. Sometimes the heat is a little bit more effective if you've just had a lot of tension. We see a lot of neck and shoulder tension from just folks having to sit at the computers recently because they're working from home. So heat tends to relax muscles that are tight from tension or chronic pain, but not so much on the fresh injuries. Usually with heat, how you use that is you could use a hot wet towel, you could use a hot water bottle filled with hot tap water, you could get one of the rice bags that you've seen in the stores that you can throw in the microwave. Those are all great. You can heat those up, put them, again, a thin towel over the skin and the heat pack on top of that, and leave them on the area till they cool down. That will usually last maybe 10 to 15 minutes. If you use a heating pad, you want to make sure that you really only use that for 20 or 30 minutes at a time before you turn it off. So just like the ice, you want to leave that off for at least 30 minutes between applications, probably a little bit closer to an hour on that. You might use that 2 or 3 times and then the same process, give it several hours off. And if it's helping, try it again. Usually with heat, it'll always feel good while it's on there, but if you start to feel worse after you've used it several times, that means there's a lot of swelling in the area and that heat is actually causing it to swell more. If in fact the heat bothers you, then you can go ahead and try and switch to the ice. That may be useful. The other thing that we've had people do, and it's usually a good idea, is what's called a hot-cold contrast, where you might use the heat pad or heat pack for 10 or 15 minutes, follow it with ice for 10 or 15 minutes. give it a half hour off, and then go to the heat and then the ice. You're just going to alternate between the hot and the cold. That can oftentimes help get swelling down and reduce pain on that. Remember, on any of these, you want to make sure that you have a thin towel or something between your skin on that. Make sure it doesn't get too hot or too cold, any kind of a burn on that. If one of them makes you worse, then switch to the other and give that a try. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to call us. We're happy to talk to you about that. If you've been using the ice and the heat for a few days and it's not getting any better, then go ahead and give us a call and get in, and we'll see what we can do. All right, that's your tip for this week. I hope you're having a great week and you have a good weekend. Thanks. Bye.